done in a second.
If we can also have the past award winners come up really quickly, please. Yes, you three. Yes. They're all retired and dressed in suits. I mean, this is like, it's like they were prepared for this picture that I was going to ask them to do. But I know I put up, yeah, the blush and all that. Y'all look great.
Hey, Joe, I'm gonna step over this way, just to get away from the doors.
Oh, wait, come this way. Oh, yeah. John, we'll get you over here. Don't come this way. Thank you. Congratulations.
All right. Firstly, I'm humbled to be receiving such a distinguished honor. You know, I've served in other leadership positions from time to time, as you heard, and my wife, Tamla, has often heard me say in those settings, give them the award, don't give them the mic. But y'all have made the mistake of giving me the mic, so I guess I have to cobble together a few thoughts. Whenever I'm in situations like this, I think of my dad, Irvin E. Beverly Sr., 87 years old, still going strong. The only 87-year-old I know who's too busy to return phone calls. And my daughter Leah can attest to that. But Daddy's adept at telling jokes. He's a captivating storyteller. My brother Irvin Jr. got those genes. My son Quentin got those genes. I didn't. So I'll try to avoid attempts at humor and refrain from telling any war stories. And in any event, I won't be before you long. When I timed this out, it was about 9.5 minutes, so bear with me. What I will say initially is that I'm awestruck by the good company I had in the prior winners of the Branch Award. I'm still pinching myself to be counted in such excellent company. You know, I've been fortunate to receive awards in other settings, as I've said, and I've tried to learn not to call names, because inevitably you leave someone out. But I would be remiss if I didn't thank Ruth for your wonderful introduction. Thank Justice Morgan, who, as you heard, I've counted as a mentor and a friend for decades. Thank you, Dawn, for your kind words, our managing partner at Young Moore, for your compassion, your friendship through the years. Hard to believe it's been 27 years, but thank you. And I want to avoid a mistake that I've heard others make in settings like this, where the attribution and thanks to the spouse comes at the end, almost like it was an afterthought. And I don't want that to be the case today. So my wife, Tamla, who's a fantastic lawyer in her own right, principal at Thomas Beverly PLLC, family law attorneys, offices in Raleigh and Durham. In case you're in need of family law. Thank you, baby, for your sage advice, your love, your compassion, your tolerance, your indulgence for all the volunteer hours and the meetings, which sometimes seem to be countless. Thank you for everything you do. She's my support, my sounding board, my biggest fan, even when I don't deserve it, so thank you. You know, in preparing for today, I did something like Dawn noted, and I realized I'm receiving the Branch Professionalism Award, and obviously apart from the notoriety of its namesake, the focus of the accolade is on professionalism. And if you ask Siri what a professional is, she'll likely tell you something like a paid occupation that requires prolonged study and formal qualification. If you ask Siri, or maybe now it's Chat GPT, what professionalism means, you'll hear the competence or skill expected of a professional. And if I were to sprinkle my own take on it, I would stress that professionalism is more than a job or even a career. And certainly the legal profession is one of the most noble, in large part because it's self-regulating. We're charged with policing ourselves. And in my experience, people treat you differently when they find out you're a lawyer. They stand up a little straighter. They try to talk a little more formally. They tend to interact with you more formally when they learn you're a member of this profession. So how can we as lawyers justify that reverence? Well, I have a few thoughts that I'll try to share with you briefly. These pearls of wisdom I'm about to postulate briefly you've heard before, and it's fitting to amplify them here. I'll call them the 4 Ps, the professionalism pedigree. 1, be punctual. I can't remember where I first learned this, but it was ingrained to me that early is on time. On time is late, and late is unacceptable. So if you want to be labeled a professional, be punctual. Number 2, be prepared. There's nothing more aggravating or antagonizing than dealing with a lawyer who's unprepared. It's a waste of time. It's time you can't get back, and it's time you could have spent on something much more productive than tolerating an unprepared lawyer. Number 3, be passionate. Professionals can't just go through the motions. Professionals can't take shortcuts. You know, I'm a big football fan, and I often digest life through football analogies, and one of them I've digested is play all 60 minutes. So if you want to be labeled a professional, don't give half-hearted effort. Give your best effort all the time. Number 4, be philanthropic. Give back to the profession. And when I refer to philanthropy, I'm not talking about donating large sums to noble causes. That's all well and good. What I'm talking about is the donation of your time. Do your best to bridge that enormous chasm that exists between those who can afford legal services and those who can't. Now, you can't do everything, and I've come to learn that the hard way, but everyone can do something to make that difference. So where did this professionalism pedigree come from? You know, I'm blessed to practice at a firm that epitomizes it, and I want to thank them for showing out for me today. So thank you all. I count you as family, and I really appreciate your attendance. But Youngmore and Henderson has played a key part in my becoming the lawyer that I am today. And I'll give you 2 brief examples of how. You know, Youngmore and Henderson, the predecessor to Youngmore and Henderson was actually Weathers and Young. So Carol Weathers practiced law with Charlie Young for a number of years before Carol Weathers became the dean at Wake Forest Law School. And when I joined Youngmore, it was explained to me that Carol Weathers had an appreciation, I'll just say, for professionalism. And he had reduced the ethics canons down to 1 single admonition. And that was taught to me when I joined Youngmore. And that admonition was, if you have to think about it, you already know the answer. So that's something that's guided me in my practice since I've been an attorney. Another example is attributable to Joe Moore. So when Carol Weathers went to Wake Forest to become dean of the law school, Charlie Young and Joe Moore forged the practice, later joined by B.T. Henderson, and Youngmore and Henderson was born. But again, when I joined the firm, it was explained to me the history that Joe Moore had a temper. And Joe Moore knew he had a temper. But Joe Moore fashioned a strategy that allowed him not to let his temper get the best of him. And the strategy he forged was that whenever an opposing lawyer irritated Joe Moore to the point of response, which I'm taught was frequent, he would exercise this strategy and write a scathing, often scathing letter to out that lawyer. And he would then take that letter and put it on the corner of his desk. And he would let that letter sit for 3 days. And if after 3 days, the message he forged in his anger was the same message that he wanted to send, he would mail the letter. And keep in mind, we're talking about the 1970s and the 1980s. There was no email. Right. So if after 3 days, the letter remained the message to be delivered, he would mail it. But almost inevitably, I'm told, he would revise that letter and not let his anger get the best of him in the moment. The exercise was cathartic for him. He got the matter off his chest, but he didn't berate or otherwise antagonize the opposing lawyer for his benefit. For us seasoned lawyers at Young Moore, we still allude sometime to the 3-day rule. And it's something that I've adopted in my practice and I would impart to you, especially in this real-time world we live in, where posts and email and texts and tweets, I don't even know if they're called tweets anymore, I guess there's something else, but you get the point. So how have I tried to perpetrate this professionalism pedigree? I'll use another football analogy for you, and any good coach will tell you that you need to scout yourself. You should spend some time investigating how others in your profession, particularly your opponents, see you. When I scout myself, in addition to hopefully hearing that I'm an okay lawyer, I tend to hear that I'm a good guy, I'm easy to work with, I give back, I do my best to volunteer, I'm trustworthy. So, in the midst of at the risk of sounding conceited, I've enjoyed a fair amount of success through the years as well. I've tried some high stakes cases, and thankfully I've won more than I've lost. So in the midst of that success, I've earned the reputation, I believe, that's revealed through my self-scouting. I am, I think, a good guy. I do give back. I can be taken at my word. I am trustworthy. I am a good lawyer. So I was raised to treat everyone with respect. And I have a genuine concern for the process and individuals connected to any case that I handle. That sometimes means granting a courtesy to a opposing counsel or not attacking a particularly vulnerable witness, treating that witness gently. Yet and still, I've never felt once that I have yielded any advantage in any of my cases by offering or extending that courtesy or by indulging that witness and not piling on. The point I want to drive home is that zealous advocacy and professionalism are not mutually exclusive. They can coexist. So as I prepare to take my seat, so this professionalism pedigree, what's in it for you? You know, Denzel Washington gave the commencement speech at Howard University in 2017, and he's famously quoted as saying, "The most selfish thing you can do is to help somebody else." And I believe he was absolutely right. Yes, your civility, your courtesy benefits the recipient, but it arguably benefits you even more. You know, studies show that lawyers experience higher incidences of stress and face more frequent bouts with dependency compared to other professions. We feel stress from deadlines, from business development, from client expectations, you name it. Studies also show that the most proven path to well-being is to build and maintain positive relationships. So I would submit to you that the courtesy you impart via the professionalism pedigree, the courtesy you impart with the professionalism pedigree, the indulgence that you extend will benefit you more than it benefits the recipient. To put an even finer point on it, my fellow lawyers, resist taking on your client's anger, resentment, and anxiety, because you already have enough of it. Thank you very much for this distinguished honor.